What do you do when you find that you feel horrified? You've heard a story, maybe you've consumed the news and you've heard about yet another civil war or yet another natural disaster, or you heard about something that happened to somebody in your local community or something within your family. Or maybe you just, as I did this week, picked up a book that was amazing. Thank you, Vanessa Woods, for writing Bonobo Handshake. An amazing, basically written documentary of bonobos, one of our closest living relatives, who are, not very well known about or understood. But it's full of horrific scenes of things that have happened in the part of the world where bonobos live, in Democratic Republic of Congo. And what do you do? What do you do when the horror of the world finds you and you suddenly feel all the things? Maybe it's shut down, maybe it's overwhelmed, maybe it is like, oh my God, I have to put this book down. Oh my God, I have to switch off the news. But you're like so glued to it because that's what trauma does to us. It sucks us in, even though we don't want to be there because it feels so awful. Well, I tapped. If you've been following along on this channel for a while, you'll know that I put human design together with trauma-informed tapping. And so while I was sitting there, literally most of the time I was reading this entire full-length book, I was using one or both hands to rub the collarbone points, right? So I wasn't doing this. It's a bit awkward while I'm reading, but I was doing this, yeah? I was supporting my nervous system to be able to find some sense of safety again while I was reading about brutal things that happen in that part of the world. Yeah. This is no doubt happening in some way, shape, or form in your life. If it's actively choosing to consume the news, or the news just finds you when you're in public spaces, whether it's something that's happened with one of your family members or a member of your community. There are so many awful things that happen, to humans, to animals, to the planet, things that make us feel truly horrified. And we're not very good at dealing with horror, like actually processing it, actually dealing with it in our so-called civilized societies. So if you are feeling any really big emotion, but if we're looking at horror today, then if you can, 1, notice you feel horrified. 2, immediately start tapping. Now, if that's actually tapping your way through the points, great, do that if that feels good. If that feels safe and appropriate for whatever space you're in at the time. And if that doesn't, then you can just rub like I do. I do it a lot if I don't feel like, going through a whole process. Just rub the collarbone points, which are just below the collarbone in here in the fleshy bit. Often I will rub the finger points and I'll just rub both sides of the fingernails so we don't have to think about which side the points are. And even as I do that, I can already feel my chest relaxing, my breath relaxing. I feel calmer. There are horrific things that happen in the world, and as much as sometimes it can be tempting to hide away in a little bubble of all love and light, and I'm only going to watch, videos of kittens and puppies doing cute things. There are horrific things happening in the world all the time, and they are, even if we try and shut them out, they're going to find us. So being able to, 1, realize we feel horrified, we feel shocked, we feel awful about the things that we're seeing or witnessing or hearing from other people on the news, and being able to support ourselves through tapping, through being with the part of us that feels all the things, and processing as much of that, as much of how we're feeling as you can in that moment, as the moment allows for, is really, really supportive of your physical health, your mental health, your emotional health. And it also makes you more well-resourced to then be able to go and do something useful, to see if you're in a position to be able to support or help or do something that would make a positive impact in this situation that's so horrific. When we feel so overwhelmed by an emotion, whatever the emotion is, particularly if it's an emotion that feels really bad, like horror, right? It will cause us to shut down so much and disconnect so much that we are not resourced to be able to do anything to make a positive difference. So by being able to notice that you feel horrified and tap and help yourself organically, naturally, genuinely calm down. Not like I'm going to take some deep breaths and just decide I'm going to calm down, or not I'm going to like stuff myself full of chocolate or go for a run. Maybe going for a run might genuinely make you feel better, but like not distracting or dissociating, but genuinely meeting the part of you that's like, that's fucking awful. I cannot believe that that thing is happening or has happened. And meeting that part of you the best that you can is then going to make you more well-resourced to then be able to take positive action. The other thing that's going to happen is that you are going to feel less like you need to go and tell everybody else about this horrific thing that's happening from this really triggered state that is then just going to trigger all their stuff as well. Now, that doesn't mean you don't go and share. Human beings were designed to share things with each other, right? So, I mean, I have a real desire to share, like, oh my gosh, some of the things that have been happening across parts of Africa that I never knew, that many people do not know in the West. I feel like telling everybody so that everybody can have a greater awareness and we can work towards a better solution that is not so closed-minded and full of propaganda, actually. But if I only tell those stories when I am full of the horror of reading about the stories that have been shared in this book, then I'm just going to trigger a horror response. The people that I talk to are also going to be horrified. But if I can process how I feel, then from a more regulated state, a more calm, present state, I can actually share with other people, oh, did you know, blah, blah, blah. Hey, I wonder, do you know anything about how we could do blah, 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 right? And I can choose to share what I've learned in a way that is not so horrific for other people, but still creates greater awareness. If we're going to solve the problems on the planet, we need to be able to do it from a non-triggered state. We need to be able to do it from a place of a lot of awareness and a lot of compassion and a lot of empathy. But if we are stuck in our own horror response, if we are still horrified, then that's what we're spreading. We're spreading more of that. So when horror finds you, and it will, and it does, I know, and it's awful, can you just pause long enough? Can you like stop reading the book? Can you pause the news? Can you, step away from the conversation you're overhearing about the latest shocking thing that's happened in the world? And can you just meet the part of you that feels horrified? Can you nurture and care for that little part of you that is so horrified by what's happening in the world? And then from there, choose your next step. Because from there, you're going to make better decisions. You're going to take better actions. Now, if you're like, that's great, Carolyn, but I don't know how the hell to do that, you can come and learn trauma-informed tapping with me. Every week I do trauma-informed tapping sessions with clients one-on-one. So if that's within your budget, you're welcome to do that. I will always put links below all the videos for resources. And if you want to jump on my email newsletter list, you'll be informed. I will inform you when I do group classes teaching the process of what I call trauma-informed tapping, which trauma-informed just really means safe, gentle, effective, caring, nurturing for yourself as you process the big things in the world. So if you want to know about that, jump on the email list and then you'll be, I can notify you, inform you when those classes are coming up, and you can do it in a group context and we can do all this hard stuff together. Bye for now.